Hey man, as you know, my name's Paul, Team Fat Boys, and I got with me James Quick. He's been on once before, and we got talking today before church. Got talking about over harvesting while he was out looking at mushrooms and stuff, and all they were finding was small ones. And there's a pretty good explanation for that, and we're going to hit that a little bit later. I guess the first thing uh, a lot of people don't realize is picking blackberries and whatnot out in the open. Nobody seems to hunt blackberries anymore or mulberries. And I don't know if you got mulberry trees around you, James.
We've got one mulberry tree over here on the east side of the house.
Yeah, I got two of them in my
Once the
backyard, and I usually just pluck them right off the tree and eat them.
that's pretty much what I do. Yeah,
That's what I do
yeah.
with
We never grown up.
Go ahead.
As I say, growing up, I remember the one place we lived. We had five or six mulberry trees, but I don't really remember Mom ever doing a whole lot with them. I mean, every once in a while she'd collect them and make some mulberry jam, but for the most part, they ended up getting eaten by birds or me because I'd climb up in the trees and sit there and eat my fill.
Well, you know when they're ripe because you end up with all these purple droppings on top of
Yep.
your car.
Yep.
We'd eat the blackberries as well, but we'd be out there 2 or 3 hours and only pick a quart, and you know where the other three went. I
That's about right.
I can't be out there. There's a lot of things you can eat. Cattail root or shoots, them are real good. Uh,
Yep.
the other thing that seems to be over harvested a lot is the nuts. Um, uh,
Yeah.
there's wildlife that uh, have a need for it, and that's their eatings. And I'm probably going to end up messing that part up, but I'll cut it out. Don't matter. Um, you know, People over harvest the nuts and things like that. And deer as well as squirrels. That's their fattening food or store food, and you'll see somebody pick every nut off the ground, and you do need to leave some for the wildlife.
Well, yeah, because with the mast, because you got your hard mast and your soft mast, which the hard mast is your hickory nuts and your acorns and stuff like that, and your soft mast are the soft exterior fruits, your apples and your blueberries and all that stuff. Um, the one thing about like squirrels, big example of squirrels, is if there is a low yield of mast that year, the squirrels will only generally have one litter that year because that's the way the animal kingdom works. When there's less food, they're going to have less young.
Huh.
And I was sitting there reading some stuff earlier about uh, the talk about the hunters of today. Hunters today know more about their game and are more technologically advanced hunting wise than the hunter 50 years ago, but the hunters today know less about the woods themselves and what to look for when it comes to hunting. Because like with the mast, if you have an abundance of food that year, that's where you're going to find your deer or your turkey or your squirrels or whatever. They're going to be closer to the food source. So there's going to be more taken that year. There's going to be more deer taken or more turkey taken or a larger population of squirrels that year. But when you don't have that abundance of food, they're going to be a lot sparse. They're going to be a lot harder to find because they'll travel a lot further to find that food. And I found it interesting. They talked about a squirrel will actually travel up to 50 miles to find a good food source.
Yeah. Well,
I never imagined that with a squirrel.
like we're talking about is conservation, and they talk about how the wolves kill our elk and whatnot, and I for the life of me I can't figure out why anybody would think of that short time span instead of the whole picture.
Right. Well, and the thing about it is what the biggest thing they fail to realize, it's all a cycle. It's all a circle. You take one part out, and eventually you're going to lose all of it. I always thought it was funny. One of my favorite things from what's that movie? That one with Keanu Reeves, The Matrix. And the agent's sitting there telling him about humans being like a bacteria, about like a virus.
Plague.
If you remove one part of everything else in the world, if you remove the food source, or if you remove the fish from the ocean, or if you remove a deer or whatever, eventually it's going to affect the whole ecosystem. But if you remove humans from it, it would flourish. Yeah. So, I think a lot of hunters need to remember that for the most part, when it comes to that stuff, we're the intruders.
Uh-huh. I used to get aggravated if people shot deer, or not deer, but bear and stuff, and until I found out there's people that go out and shoot a bear and they keep the meat, and I've never ever had a bear steak, but I think I'd at least try one.
Oh, bear's good. It's a real sweet meat. Bear is very good.
But I remember eating my first snake down in Sweetwater, Texas, and I remember eating my first alligator at a truck stop just outside of Louisiana or whatever. See, I can't remember what the name of that damn town was. It was right there off the interstate. But the thing that brought us together today mainly was for the mushrooms, and
right.
I'm sure Jim knows more about the mushrooms than I do. I do go out shroom hunting, but he's probably a little more versed in it. And I asked him if he had found any mushrooms and stuff, and he was telling me that they were pretty small, and that's what got us on the conversation of over harvesting. And I'll go ahead and turn you loose on it, Jim.
Well, generally speaking, mushroom season usually doesn't start until about this time, about the first week of April is when it really begins. And one of the biggest things to look for is May apples. That's your little umbrella type little plants as you see them growing alongside the roads and everything. When May apples are blooming, that's a good sign it's mushroom season. But since we've had such a mild winter, they actually started sprouting earlier. And I've been out there a few times looking myself in the last couple of weeks, a lot earlier than I normally would have to begin with. I haven't found anything yet because I'm discovering that the places that I normally go to, they're not secret no more. They've been discovered by others, and they're overpicked. There's nothing there. You can go out there. The last time I went down to the one spot, I could tell where there were about 25 or 30 spots where somebody had found them. And here's the other thing is they don't cut the stems off. They just pull them out of the ground. And that's the way I was always raised is you sit there and you take a knife with you and you cut the stem off of the ground, and it a lot of times they'll repopulate right there. You always also go out there with a porous bag, like a net or a mesh bag, so that while you're carrying the mushrooms through the woods, the spores can fall out and fall back onto the forest floor.
Right.
But I've noticed on Facebook, like on the Morel mushroom page, a lot of people posting pictures of, mushrooms that, they put them next to quarters, they're the size of a quarter. And I'm like, and they're sitting there picking all that they can find. Well, number one, a mushroom that big isn't giving you anything. There's not, that's just a taste. And number two, it hasn't gotten large enough yet to start spreading its spores. Because I think a mushroom has to grow for, I think it's 9 days before it actively produces spores that will repopulate the area. So at that little, you're ruining your area.
Yeah.
And these people, then these people get on there, get to complaining about, well, they can't find no more. It's because you've taken away everything that can reproduce.
Oh yeah, I plucked a half of a 5-gallon bucket full, and we only hunted about an acre, and we done had as much mushrooms as we could carry, and that's the problem. That's the attitude right there. They want to get it before anybody else can, and I can't see doing it. And Lost Oaks got me into the conservation thing, so I've kind of went from conservation on catfish to conservation on just about anything. It put the mindset that if it's overpopulate or if it's over harvest, the source in that area is going to go away.
That's right. Well, that's pretty much the way I was raised. My dad he was an old hillbilly, and they understood what it took to maintain a successful ecosystem, because they were just like the squirrels and the other wildlife. Everything that was out there, they were depending upon to survive. They went into town maybe once every few months to buy some stuff like sugar or flour or stuff like that, but everything else, they lived on the fish, they lived on the wild game, they lived on nuts and everything else that they gather up. And I can remember growing up, they had taken us out to the woods, and that was one of the things that he always preached to us, was about only taking what you need. Because if you take everything, there's not going to be nothing left.
Yeah, we're talking about that, and I can remember my grandpa telling me that they didn't have refrigerators, that you had to put your container of milk in a stream to keep it cool, and then they dropped a silver $50 or something like that, but it was silver, and that killed the bacteria. And he just told me a lot of different ways, salting fish, making your own jerky and stuff like that. Well, I don't do it a lot because I can go to the store and do it cheaper, but if I had to do it, I could do it. And I may only be 50 years old, but I still got a lot of knowledge, that I listened to my grandpa. I paid attention to Grandma, what she was doing. So with that being said, I know some of the stuff that some of the older people don't know either.
Yep. Well, it's and that's the one thing about it, is it's there is a wealth of knowledge out there on the internet that comes from older sources. People that, you see all kinds like yours, you see all kinds of blogs out there now on things. And you can pretty much type in anything you want and you can find it. And I've come across some real good reading materials on everything from mushrooms, find out, because mushrooms growing up, I was always told that, you always find them around elm trees, especially dead elms and stuff like that. I found out, it's what I've learned is it's dependent upon the area of the country you're from,
right,
as to what tree you'll find them mostly around.
I got a dumb dog here barking.
Yeah.
She thinks she owns the place. But yeah, I mean, people need to do some reading. I can make my own lye soap. All I got to do is have fat and some lye, and then you can maybe mix in some sensor stuff. But I know how to make the lye soap. How many people do you think that takes the time to read up on that stuff? Not a lot.
Yep. Oh, I remember growing up, my grandma making lye soap all the time. She had the barrels out there out behind her shed that she used.
I couldn't go without soap very long. I gotta wash that butt every now and then.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, I think I got you a account on Team Fat Boys, don't I, on the website?
Yes. I've got a WordPress account. Yep.
You forget how to log into it, or?
Oh no, I went on there the other day, and I was after we had that last time we talked. I'd got on there and was thinking about writing something.
Yeah, I mean, feel free to you go out mushroom hunting. Take your camera, snap some pictures of them in the ground, and why not, and post them. It's pretty easy, and you've got all the credentials to post stuff up on your own without having to be monitored. So
Yeah, well, I plan on tomorrow afternoon. I was going to go back out there, and I've been looking for some new spots to try out, and I came across one the other day that I think it's far enough off the beaten path that there might be only a couple people that would actually go out to it.
I'll tell you what, them ticks and chiggers are going to be hard this year.
Oh man,
I had my dogs out for about 5-10 minutes, and then they ended up with a damn tick on them already. So they're going to be hard. As you see my little Chihuahua here, she's got her green card. She's got to go back to Mexico.
Yeah, we've already been. This morning we was sitting there picking ticks off of the pup that we've got. I don't know who it was, but one of them had a big old fat one that fell off at some point because we found it. It got stepped on in the carpet, so I ended up having to clean that up out of the carpet. That was nice.
I don't want the other thing we need to talk about. You're going out romping out here in the woods. You better keep your eyes open for them copperheads and them snakes.
Right.
There are some snakes that will downright kill you, and especially, if you're a little bit away from the road or whatnot, just lay down there and hopefully somebody will come up on you, because if you get running, you're going to end up dying quicker than you would if you just laid there for help. Or that's at least my opinion.
Yep. Well, it's just keeping the heart slowed down.
Educate yourself about the snakes. Don't be out there killing garter snakes and water snakes and corn snakes. I mean, you do that, and it goes back to what me and Jim's talking about in conservation. You kill those snakes, and you're going to end up having a rat problem, a mouse problem, spiders, bugs, all because you couldn't stand to be around that snake. Now, if I run up onto a poisonous snake, will I kill it? You damn right I will. If it's right in my immediate area, and I know if I move, it's going to get me, it's going to get a 9mm. Just simple as that. But if it looks like I could get out of him striking, I'm going to back off. And I wear the proper shoes out there, stuff that's going to cover the bottom part of my legs. Because if you don't, and you walk up on that copperhead, he's going to get you.
Yep.
You don't want it.
And copperheads, they are notorious for their bad attitude.
Very aggressive snakes, for sure. But you know, this is only webisode number 4. I'm getting back into doing the interview thing. I've been out of it for quite a while. You know, when I sold Catfish Weekly to Lyle, I hadn't been on except to do a giveaway here. I think it was around Christmas time or something. I did that, but so bear with me while I try and getting all my myself back to doing what I love to do. I've lost well over 100 pounds. I'm 4 years smoke free coming up in October, and I'm definitely having a better time getting out in the woods. So I'm going to start doing a whole lot more. You can bet on it. But until next time, guys, we'll catch you later, and have a good one.
All right, Paul, you take care.